Access granted.
Hi ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Superchunk Super Audio Show. Today I'm finally back after being on a hiatus. Today we will be talking about the HIDIZ MS2 Pro. So these are quite a recent offering from HIDIZ. Basically this is their sub $100 model that features a hybrid configuration, one balanced armature and one dynamic driver. As usual, I will start things off with an unboxing. Really, there's nothing much to it. This is a very generic Chinese looking black box with a render of the IEM on the front. Truly nothing spectacular, but serviceable I guess. Opening the box, you get the IEMs themselves. Mine is in the sunset orange color. Did I mention there are actually three color variants? Sunset orange as you see here, royal blue and midnight black. Below that you get a very nice easy to use pouch from HIDIZ that holds the earphone cables inside it as well. You also get a bunch of filters to tweak the sound somewhat. And lastly, and the most interesting bit of this unboxing, is how the ear tips are displayed. I like that they are just simply skewered onto a stick like a satay. You get two different types of ear tips here, one with a larger ball and one with a slightly smaller one. Moving on to the build quality, these are made from metal. More specifically, they use a metal injection molding process, usually with zinc alloy. That is quite common in more affordable IEMs such as SimGod and whatnot. The good thing about this is that you get a rather solid metal chassis. The bad thing about it is that basically your finishing options are very limited, and that is why they all tend to have their chrome-like appearance. They do feel very good in the hand, very solid. In terms of comfort and fit, I find them to fit decently well. The chassis here uses a 2-pin termination, which is basically what everybody uses these days. Inside the IEM, as mentioned earlier, this is a hybrid IEM with one dynamic driver and one balanced armature. The dynamic driver here is a 10.2mm dual magnet design with what HIDIZ calls a dual cavity structure. This is a fairly standard size for a dynamic driver. It is quite big, and in this configuration, specifically the dynamic driver handles the bass. Now the balanced armature is what HIDIZ calls its silver core balanced armature. It is basically responsible for the treble frequencies. The nozzle on the tip allows you to change the filter, and this is what HIDIZ calls the pneumatic sound tuning filter. They included three different types of filters. The black ones and the red ones are basically very similar, and the white ring filter is a little bit brighter with more attack. And for this review, the review will be based on the red filter, which is the stock filter on the IEM. As for my unit that comes in this sunset orange colorway, I'm really not too sure what to say about it in terms of the color. I guess they are okay. I don't think that they are the prettiest. If I were to pick one, I'll pick the black one, I suppose. And next, moving on to sound, the MS2 Pros have a typical V-shaped tuning as seen in many IEMs these days. Having a V-shaped tuning isn't really a bad thing. It's the evolutionary trend that most earphones tend to follow because this is what people like basically. Of course, there are many different types of V-shaped tunings, but this one is a very box standard chi-fi sort of V. Which brings me to the point. I think that the MS2 Pros are great for people who are just picking their first entry-level IEM or who are just getting into the game. I need to clarify this. I mean, this is gonna be their first decent entry-level IEM, not the $20 very generic sounding sort. Next up, let's talk about bass. On the MS2 Pros, the bass is driven clearly by the dynamic driver. It leans a little bit more towards the mid-bass, which really helps with kick drums, bass drums and whatnot, and basically gives you that chest thumping feel. It gives quite good definition. In terms of resolution, it is on par with its competitors in the sub $100 category. It is adequate. It will not compete with, let's say, your $500 IEMs, but really for the price, it is really pretty damn decent. Transients here is adequately fast, not the fastest, but really in line with other earphones in this segment. Moving on to mid-range, the MS2 Pros are a bit more mid-range focused, which emphasizes the upper part of the V. It gives you all the good stuff that you want in female vocals. It is basically clean, concise, and not overly forward. Male vocals aren't a slouch either. Resolution-wise, it is again pretty much standard or slightly better than the average in this price segment. One important thing to note is that while the upper mids are really quite prominent, there is actually a drop-off in treble, and this gives the perception of the upper mids being a little bit rounded. Overall, the resolution is decent, and this makes for a very good listen for those who are sensitive to upper treble. Next up, moving on to treble, the extension here is decent. There's a bit of drop-off from the upper mid, so it isn't as prominent, but that is actually perfect for folks who aren't used to really extended treble. This is a very forgiving IEM which should make treble-sensitive listeners happy. I wouldn't say that the treble is lacking, but it is definitely not as prominent as the upper mids. Let's talk about soundstage. When it comes to width and height, it's basically box standard for this price. It does okay height, okay width. Depth is actually pretty good. The dynamics sit quite well for the price. Positioning is also very decent. Treble extension could be slightly better for more pinpoint imaging, but overall, I find them pretty okay. And next, let's compare them with some other IEMs out there in the market. One that I think did really well would be the Sivga Trie. Now, the Sivga Trie is one that I certainly enjoy quite a bit. It features a single dynamic driver and it's another V-shaped IEM. It's a bit more coherent and tighter overall. In terms of resolution, I do find that it is slightly better than the MS2s, but the MS2s make up for it by having a more rounded sort of sound and is generally smoother. So if you like a very smooth sounding sort of signature, go with the MS2s. But if you want something that has a bit more resolution, of course it gives you everything that you want to hear and probably don't want to hear, then go with the Sivga Trie. And finally, let's rate the MS2s. Bass gets a 7 out of 10, decent in line with the competitors. Mid-range, I really like how it emphasizes female vocals, it gets a 7. Next up, treble gets a 6.5, it is present, not dark but not overly extended either. Airiness is there but it's not super airy. And next up, resolution gets a 7 out of 10. It resolves music adequately for the price. Soundstage again, it gets a 7. Standard width and height, depth is slightly better than average. Position is good despite slightly limited treble extension, and overall, when it comes to the enjoyment factor, I give it a strong B+. It is a solid performer when it comes to vocals, especially if you are a female vocals enjoyer, this is a treat. At $80, this is a very solid pair for the price. Chi-Fi tends to stay within its price category, it does not really punches above its price rate, things are kind of settled. But I think it's a very nice and balanced IEM. This is a great pick if you're new and want something that emphasizes vocals, and basically that's it. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you guys soon.